So I wanted to start out today by doing a practice together to settle into being here. And this is based on shamatha instructions by Lama Zopa. Let's start out by taking a few deep breaths, letting your body relax, letting your mind relax. To do this, allowing yourself to fully arrive, allowing yourself to be present. Now take a moment to notice, what does awareness feel like? This is just ordinary awareness. It's always here, always with you in every experience, every feeling, every thought that arises. Vividly clear, open, brilliant. You don't need to grasp at anything. Just notice this quality of knowing your presence. Anything that arises, it too is arising in awareness. Rest your awareness in the center of your heart. Simply allow it to settle there. Notice yourself drifting off, thought, simply gently come back to your heart. almost more like you're letting this happen than trying to do anything. Your whole body be very relaxed. You need to block out anything. You don't need to stop your thoughts. Just be here. Coming back, mind will naturally become more settled and calm. Now, simply allow yourself to relax. Relax into the natural calmness of mind. It's unfindable. There's nothing to cling on to, nothing to focus on, nothing to fix or effort at. As you relax and open, if there's an experience of blankness, relax into its natural calmness. If there is an experience of clarity, relax into its natural calmness. There's an experience of mind going wild and giving rise to many thoughts. Relax into its natural calmness. The naked, direct experience of whatever there is in this very moment. Simply relax, no matter what arises. You find yourself trying to figure out how to do this, relax into the natural calmness of that too. Experiences, blankness, clarity, or thought arise. Recognize them, but don't follow or chase after them. Don't try to prolong any experiences either. Rest within the space that is this recognition of their nature. The key point. Relax the mind. Tangles of thought will untie themselves. Gently coming back. Everyone, it's good to see you can see you both in person and on Zoom. So for those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Pauline, and I've been a full-time volunteer in the Nyingma Mandala community now for almost 2 decades. I'm here today simply as someone who is deeply interested in how mind and consciousness work on a lived experiential level. And as a result, I'm also very interested in meditation, dreaming, and dying. And the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, especially Nyingma, has a wealth of instructions related to all these states, ranging from the practical to the esoteric. And today we'll keep it simple. I just want to give us a few reminders, a little taste of how we can face our own death productively. So first of all, thank you for coming. I know that this topic is one that can be a little bit intimidating to all of us. And it's good to remember that death is actually inseparable from life. Everything that is born must die. Everything that comes together must come apart. And we see this illustrated all around us, even in the seasons. Winter following fall, following summer, following spring. But usually, death is special. We want to pretend that death doesn't exist. We don't even want to think about it. On a very subtle level, we are constantly reaching out for some things and avoiding others. There's so much hope, like leaning forward, and fear, like leaning away almost. And there's a subtle tension whenever we do this, and it builds up. The longer that we don't return to a natural, open state, the more likely it is that we become a little bit off balance. We might habitually turn to things that prolong this reactivity or distract us, seeking some sort of relief. We even become used to certain kinds of discomfort. We might even see these little patterns that we're frozen into as part of our personality. And whether we justify it or we dislike, we kind of want to hide this part of ourselves, there's no choice anymore. When we meet certain situations, it's like there's one narrow, inevitable way of acting. Our choices just kind of close off. And our deepest fears, when we really stop to look, let them sit with them, let them open up, many of them are related to death, or what I think of as its death's heralds, which are aging and illness. And sometimes this can go subterranean, unseen. Maybe we almost manage to forget that death is part of life. We're so busy with everything going on. But when we're hiding, when we're afraid of death, this fear becomes extra suffering, more so than simply meeting experience itself. We can do a lot of suffering in advance. And of course, this is very real to us. We can really experience suffering, and we can really suffer, or fear, and we can really suffer. It's very real on this level for us. But it's good to remember that fear itself is only energy, and it's our energy. If we recognize it as such, and it's not always easy to do so when we're in the grips of it, then we can let it pass through us. There's a classic metaphor, and you can tell it's coming from a different day and age, but imagine you're walking up a hill, and suddenly you see a massive army before you. You're totally outnumbered, and they look a little bit scary, so you feel kind of a little bit intimidated. Then you realize that it's your own army, maybe, and so there's this like flip, like something that you're afraid of now becomes supportive, it becomes no longer something that you have to protect against. So when we relax, there's that point again, they'll keep coming up. When we relax into fear as sensation or become present and curious about it, rather than hypnotized by the contents of our thoughts or by our reactions to those thoughts, things just become waves of energy, of sensation, and we can be calm and stable like the depths of the ocean, even if the surface is choppy. So what happens when we allow ourselves to acknowledge death as another part of life? First of all, it's unavoidable. So even if we pretend it's not there, it's not like we can get away from it that way. And many of our concerns will not last forever, even though sometimes they seem so permanent when we're embroiled in them. This can give us a fresh perspective on our priorities. In addition, part of our fear stems from death as a great unknown, that it becomes less so when we're able to prepare so that it doesn't catch us unawares. So if I'm traveling to a foreign country, I don't know how many of you have planned trips recently, but I do some research first, especially if I don't speak the language. And actually, even if I'm doing something really straightforward, like I'm gonna go get a cup of tea here in Berkeley, I don't just, wander into the street in my pajamas. I decide which cafe I want to go to. I put on some comfortable shoes. I maybe Google how far away it is, or ask AI at this point, I guess, depending on what you like to use to source your info. And I have a general feeling like, okay, this is about how far I'm expecting to walk. These are the general features that I expect to encounter on my walk. So when it comes to the time of death, it's kind of odd that we would decide to go on this journey with so much less knowledge and preparation. So there's a book called the Bardo. It is actually one of the first Tibetan texts that was translated into English, which is interesting. It was translated in 1927 as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So some of you may have heard of this before. And it describes different stages that we pass through as we go through what's called the Bardo of dying, to the Bardo of dharmata, and the Bardo of becoming. These are, what does Bardo mean? It sort of means in between or gap. These are the in between states when we leave this life behind and before we take rebirth. And so I was kind of thinking, actually, this text, parts of this text, are a little like voice navigation on your phone. Portions of it were meant to be read aloud to the person who's just passed away to guide them through the different bardos. And so it's there to help us navigate. And of course, if we have a general idea of the terrain we'll meet on our journey, it's easier to be relaxed and calm. And this includes when we're going through the final stages in our bodies. So it might be sort of like, okay, I'm feeling heavy. That's the earth element starting to dissolve. Now the water element is dissolving. That's why my mouth is starting to feel dry, and so on. So you sort of can observe yourself passing through these stages with more confidence. And otherwise, it can be a little confusing or disorienting, especially if you've never thought about this before. And this text goes on to say that in the Bardo of Dharmata, so now we're just mind, really. We're just consciousness. We've left our bodies behind. You might see dreamlike figures arising, and you might have reactions to them. They might be pleasant or they might feel scary, but they are just manifestations of your mind greeting you, saying, hey, wake up. And so if we know this, our journey takes on a different flavor. In the Bardo of becoming, again, we're sort of just consciousness or mental. We're in what the tradition calls a mental body at this point. So whatever you think of, your mind goes there almost instantaneously. So the stages of stages of these processes, they aren't exactly the same for every single person. It's almost like, for me, it's almost like navigating the stages of grief. There's general, touch points that most people go through, but it's not exactly the same or the exact same order for everyone. But having this background still gives you a better chance of recognizing what's happening. It's a little like when you're in a dream and you realize you're in a dream, or when you're lost in thought and you come back to being present. And also, if you have been training your mind, there are specific intervals in the Bardo that are considered particularly conducive to this sort of recognition, even to liberation. You recognize and rest in the nature of mind itself. At these moments, there's much less things covering up our awareness. And there's much less overlay and elaboration. And everything's totally open. Of course, it's also possible to just totally miss them. For most of us, it goes by quickly. If you've been meditating, it might feel like there's a longer period of time to recognize this. And so we're pulled by our karma towards our next rebirth, towards one of the 5 realms. And so I'm not going to go into each stage in great detail today. It's really fascinating and sometimes dense material, but we don't have enough time to do it justice in 1 hour. Instead, I'd like to focus more on the big picture, how we can orient ourselves, the attitude or direction through which we can meet our own death with more grace and ease. And so it's a little bit like if you were lost in the forest, but okay, this feature, like this river here, will take me to the ocean if I keep following it. No matter what types of landscapes I go through, no matter what kind of animals or like cities or people, if I follow in this direction, then it'll take me home in a way. So what is this? In non-technical terms, I'd say something like, as you walk through this landscape, which of course is a metaphor through this journey, you're traveling with the aspiration to wake up for all beings. So you're really letting these qualities of heart, of aspiration, move you forward. And you are letting go of everything behind you. So you can even imagine giving everything away. And most importantly, remember, relax. So that's kind of the key point here. For practitioners, I'd say we call this bodhicitta. I'm sure most everyone here has heard that term before, in both the relative and the ultimate aspects. So remember your aspirations, love for others without attachment. And remember that everything arising for you is the appearance of mind. While we have this opportunity, while we're in this state of being alive, make a study of your own heart and mind. Something that I've been reflecting on recently is that awareness and this quality of heart aren't so far apart from each other. We hear compassion and wisdom as being so important on this path. And in the beginning, maybe they seem pretty different. But as you continue to practice, you might begin to taste a little bit in your own experience of how these things might really not be so different. How this points you to a place that is actually beyond what we call the spheres of subject and object. And this kind of seeing, this kind of understanding, it isn't like trying to solve a puzzle with your mind. It's not like an intellectual thing to figure out. It's more like recognition. You can train to live from this place of presence more and more as you go along. Let's do a practice together. And take a moment to get comfortable. You can sit for this. I'm going to sit because I'm going to be reading some words for us. But you can also lay down for this. because it's meant to be kind of a contemplation on death. Usually, we feel that our death will be sometime in the indefinite future. It's far away from us. Now, imagine that you know that you have 5 more years to live. How does this shift things? Now imagine that you have 1 more year to live. How does this feel? You have 1 more month. Let this knowing be present for you. 1 more week. 1 more day. Time becomes. Imagine lying on your own deathbed. Time has come. If you notice any fear, any discomfort, become curious about it as pure sensation. Breathe into this sensation, knowing that so many beings, just like you, have met, are meeting, will meet similar circumstances. Breathe in any fear, discomfort, pain, not only for yourself, but for all of these beings. Imagine reaching out, all the beings facing their own mortality right now, realizing that you're not alone, and that some others might be suffering even more. And with each out breath, Imagine that you're breathing out a sense of relief, quality of ease, only for yourself. Imagine this going out to all beings who have ever faced similar circumstances. As much as you can, your body relaxed. Yourself connect with the wish, burden, all beings face, lighten. We wish that all of us free of suffering. You might even imagine others facing death. Imagine them finding just a little bit more ease. Let yourself feel happy about this. You can see in your mind's eye someone in the hospital bed. Maybe the perfect breeze finds them. They feel loved, cared for. Now call to mind your loved ones. Let yourself be filled with caring for them. In your mind's eye, see before you someone that is, for whom it's easy for you to feel love for. On what you appreciate about them. Wish for for their happiness. Mind another person you love. Enjoy the sensation of caring for them, letting it expand as if radiating out from your heart. Extend this sense of caring to other people that you've known in your life. Expanding this feeling of love. Family, friends, to those who maybe are more on the edges of your social circles, those who you met briefly, who are usually neutral towards. Letting the sense of caring extend to those who you found challenging. Consider that even the people that really annoyed you sometimes have accidentally helped you in some way. Sense or shared humanity. All these beings you've ever met. Points of consciousness throughout time and space, stars in a vast sky. Let yourself feel on some level that you're all family. Let yourself connect with intention of live in alignment with reality, to be able to help all these beings. Not only humans, animals too. You feel a connection to a lineage of teachers or teachings. Let yourself be filled with gratitude for them and for the teachings. The aspiration to continue this path, meet them as early as possible in your next life so that you can continue on this path towards wisdom, towards awakening. Wake up for the benefit of all beings. May I never forget bodhicitta. May it grow stronger and stronger. Take a moment to consciously let things go. No more fixing things, trying so hard to be a certain way, to impress anyone. Let go of any of the business of this life, any attachments. You might even imagine giving away all your wealth, all your accumulated possessions, anything that you hold dear. Imagine giving it away and really enjoy the feeling. Or kind of imagining the recipient really making use of it, being really happy to receive it. Even releasing the elements of your body back into the universe. You meet the next part of your journey. As much as you can, rest in a quality, a sense of confidence. Already are awareness. It's already here. It's always been here with you. Part of everything you perceive, sense, think. Light of awareness. Love, awareness guide you. Anything that arises, you have no need to be afraid. Just as in a dream, know that whatever arises is your own mind, recognition and liberation are not separate. These words from the Bardo Dojo. O child of Buddha nature, death has now arrived. Rely on this moment. Single-mindedly cultivate loving kindness, compassion, and the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, or as limitless as space. Recognize this moment as the arising of inner radiance, the luminous awareness that is your true nature. Back now. To say that the Bardo is now. Usually when we talk about the Bardo, we're talking really about that transition phase between lifetimes, between lives. But technically, we're always in a Bardo. We're always in transition, in flow, changing, even though we forget all the time that this is the case. And what we do now creates the momentum that takes us to our next life. This is why they say that the only thing that goes with you is your karma. Remembering that death is part of life can shake us up in a good way. It can cut through this quality of business as usual, going through our days a bit numb without really being present. We can relate with a fresh quality to everything that's arising and passing away moment to moment. For me, it's worth asking, how am I getting in the way of fully receiving everything that's arising? And what might I need to do? And what might I need to let go of more fully? Life is a flow of transitions, and when we are right here with it, rather than fighting against it, that's when something magical can happen. here today. And if you want to learn more about practices for death and dying, the deans, Pamela Gellick and Lama Paulson, will be teaching a class on this next term in early fall 2026. Let's take a moment to dedicate the merit. I just wanted to say for all of us, when the actual moment of death comes, as it will for each of us, may we recognize it as a doorway, as a portal, an opening into luminous awareness. May all beings rest in their true nature. So let's chant Om Ahum 3 times to dedicate the merit. And then we're just about at the end of our hour, but I'll hang around if anyone wants to chat a little bit. Everyone.